Hi, I'm Alex Stutchbury and welcome to Art Class, a series of videos designed to teach you the key skills needed to create great art. Today I'm going to show you how to realistically shade and texture a portrait drawing. I'm going to work upon the one that I started in the last video of Nelson Mandela. All you're going to need today though, equipment wise, is a pencil, a rubber, a piece of tissue, and if you've got one, a little graphite stick, but if you don't, the pencil will work for us. Let's look at the objectives.
So the objective is, can you show a full range of the equipment you're using to produce a variety of realistic marks and tones on the portrait? So can you use a tissue to represent smooth skin midtones, a rubber for highlights, and graphite pencil to create textures and the darkest shadows?
For this first bit, get a graphite stick if you've got one, and your piece of tissue. Maybe fold it in half to get a bit more strength. Smudge the graphite into the tissue and then apply that graphite onto your page in a circular motion, almost like a mini hamster washing your windows, because actually with that circular motion you won't create streaks and smears. You have to keep adding more graphite as you go though to make this work. If you don't have graphite, you can always use a pencil and just scribble it on the edge of the table first and then apply it in the same way.
Here's a close-up of that circular motion. You have to keep going back and applying more graphite to the tissue. It's not going to last forever. So remember, in the circular motion, to avoid streaks or lines where you've pressed too firmly, you're trying to smudge the tone across the surface of the cartridge paper. You're not trying to grind it into the actual fibres of the cartridge paper, because otherwise it won't rub out. If you haven't got a graphite stick though, it's not the end of the world. If you look here, you can shade in the very darkest parts first, and then from those darkest areas you can smudge again with the tissue out to create the midtone over the rest of the surface of the face.
Right, onto the highlighting. So get a rubber, forget that it's an erasure of mistakes, but actually think of it as a drawing tool in its own right. On your midtone, look carefully at the photo you're working from and rub out all of those highlighted areas. If you want to try and make something slightly smoother and not so obvious, use the side of a rubber for more subtle areas.
So when you're rubbing out the highlights, look at your photo, look very carefully. It may be more obvious in some images and less so in others, but the key areas that you often notice highlight is on the nose, on the cheeks, often the philtrum area or the bottom lip, but not the top one. The top one's often darker, and above the eyebrows. Now comes the fun part. It's putting in all of that key detailing, all the darkest areas, because you've now put in the midtones, you've smudged them in, you've put your highlights in and rubbed them out. Now you're putting the darkest tones in, and that's where it will really come to life, your picture, because you'll have that full tonal range. Often what I would suggest is just shading in lots of dark areas first, doing a whole section, and then you can smudge from those darker areas with the tissue, because it will blend smoother this time, because you're smudging tone onto an already smudged mid-tone surface. But what you'll find is you'll have to keep going back into it. You'll have to keep defining those key areas, because once you've smudged it, it will lose some of the detailing, so you'll have to grab the pencil again and redefine those key bits like the eyes, textured areas, eyebrows, the nostrils, the mouth. A key point to remember, or key areas to remember: dark shadows around the bridge of the nose. Top lip is darker, bottom lip is lighter, because the bottom lip sticks out and catches the light. And also making sure you've got those textures in the hair, and make sure the neck is dark because it's casting shadow from the chin.
Once you've applied all the textures with the pencil, it's back to your old friend the rubber again, one last time, just to neaten up all of those little highlighted areas, because you may have smudged by mistake over the top of them when you were drawing the rest of the work. So get your rubber out, go over those highlights again to make them really vivid and white. The better the contrast of highlight against the darkest shadows, the more realistic and 3D it looks.
So rub out all the highlights once more to make sure they're really bright and vivid white, the best contrast, but also rub out around the head as well, because you may have smudged tone onto that with your palm whilst you're working on the main face. So here's the whole process, just sped up, one last time, just focusing on the eye. So you've got the midtones on, you're then rubbing in all of those highlighted areas, anywhere on the face which is sticking out and catching the light shining from most of the time above. Then once you've done that, you're putting in the darker tones with the pencil, doing some texture as well, but also hatching in some darker areas, showing the form and the curvature of that eye socket. Then it's back to the tissue, smudging those in and fading it back in, before finally redefining all of those very darkest parts with a pencil and highlights with a rubber.
So there you go, a realistic tonal portrait, showing the full range of tones from the highlights used with a rubber, mid-tones smudged in, and then the really darkest shadow tones applied with a pencil, and also texture in key areas like the hair and little marks and differences on the face. Give it a go, because it's going to be a really successful outcome if you follow all of those rules that we discussed today. I look forward to seeing how you get on. My name's Alex Stutchbury. Goodbye.